Welcome to this episode of Grassroots Advocacy. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out Grassroots Advocacy, the series, please go ahead and do that. We've got 36 wonderful episodes for you to choose from. Lots of great content. During our last episode, we had the opportunity to be joined by my colleague, Mr. Dane Henning, who is going to be heading up an initiative called Advocate. This episode, I'm really fortunate to have with me a really dear friend and member of our board of directors and a lifelong certified nursing assistant, Miss Karren G. Welcome, Karren.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, so Karren, as you know, as we've been talking about grassroots advocacy, and really about how we can be a voice for the men and women that we care for. You were sharing a couple of concerns that you had about residents' rights and about how residents, they're in their home and we're guests.
Right.
So would you like to share with the viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah. One thing I always wondered is when you go through your training period at your facility that you're working at, you're always told that this is their home. You are a guest. So one thing that always stuck in the back of my mind was, why are we not walking that talk? You know, if you have someone that, say, for instance, is a resident that did night shift their whole entire life, and then you have to go in there and get them up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning for breakfast. Well, they may not eat breakfast until 8, 9, 10 o'clock. So that was something that always bothered me. You know, if we truly want to take care of them, then let's take care of them and make them feel like this is their home. Make them feel more comfortable.
Okay. Now, do I also remember, Karren, that when you and I were talking a little bit earlier, one of the other things that you shared with me is the concern that sometimes we wake elders up or residents or neighbors or, in your particular case, veterans in the middle of the night to take showers?
Yes. Yeah. I do not remember seeing anything in our policy that states that this certain resident has to get up. How we did it was, you would have one shower aide or two shower aide, and they were responsible for doing so many day shift showers, so many evening shift showers, and so many night shift showers. Well, who wants to get up in the middle of the night and take a shower?
Right.
You know, I can see one doing a lot of residents on evening shift to take a shower because it would relax you and everything. So getting someone up to take a shower, I wouldn't want it, you know. I mean, it just, to me, it sets their whole day up for almost like a failure for them. You know, they're going to be tired when you get them down for breakfast. And then they're going to end up being on consumption because they're not eating.
Right.
Well, if you would just let them sleep, then maybe their eating would improve. You know,
Right.
their more involvement would improve, their alertness, you know. So that's...
So, Karren, those are two fairly common challenges that we're confronted with in the post-acute and long-term care environment. And it's important for us as advocates, first of all, to take the time to really understand the rules, the regulation, the policies and procedures that are part of our organization. Because when we communicate with our leaders and with our peers, the more knowledgeable we are, the more we can speak to facts as opposed to opinion. The next thing that's really useful for us to do is to look at the situation and try to determine if it's an individual thing or if it's an institutional thing. For example, saying, hey, let's get people up between the hours of 11 and 6. That's an institutional thing. Just
Right.
think about it. How many people actually get up between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. to take a shower?
Not very
I don't know about you, but I don't.
I don't either.
The only time I take a bath that late is when I'm coming in from the club before I go to bed. So, so that sounds to me like that's an institutional behavior. That's something that you guys do as part of your operation that makes sense to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to bathe,
Right.
right? So, and then with regard to one of the things that Karren and I were talking as we were preparing for our time together, Karren was really taking an opportunity to share with me that for some of the people that she has the opportunity to care for, they're getting up as early as 4 a.m. because they have to get up, they have to have receive the assistance, and they have to get down to the dining room. Then they have to wait in the dining room until the trays are passed or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And so you're talking about a lot of setting time, if you will. And then if you think about that, if you get up at 4 and you're down at the dining room by 6:30, and then you're done eating by 7, and then you're back on the hall 45 minutes later, it's almost time to get back up to get ready for the next meal.
Right.
And so I'm not sure that living to eat is fun.
Right.
So we want to understand what the root cause of those challenges are. What's the root cause of having people get up so early to be able to go eat, and what's the root cause? And it sounds like in both of these situations, what we're thinking about are institutional things. They're just part of your organization's routine. Mm-hmm. And, we've gotten accustomed to doing this, and so we're going to go with that. The advantage of that is that allows your organization to operate in a more purposeful way, and very well planned out and organized. The disadvantage of that is that is not very person-centered. For example, if you come down and you wake up Jeff in the middle of the night to take a shower, yep, you better watch out because I might throw something at you. My urinal, my remote control, something. So once you understand what's going on, then you can think about, number one, what are some alternatives? So like, for example, you and I were talking earlier, Karren, and if I remember correctly, and please chime in here, you suggest that maybe what we should do as far as the dining experience is concerned is let those folks who like to sleep in, mm-hmm. and we'll just make sure to get them some AM nourishment, a snack or something of that nature. Is that right?
Right, yeah. It is. And us, if or change the times to the dining room. Of course, in our facility, we have 3 different cores. We have A core, which is basically assisted living. Some of them do not require as much help as the other 2 cores do. Okay. So on our B core special care unit, their times vary a little bit different from, I call it main population, because they do have their own living area and everything else back there. They have their own dining room. So their times reflect a little bit different because that's our Alzheimer's and dementia unit. But on C core, you have a variety. Ones that need total care to just assistant care. So to me, if you have an open dining room experience is what they call it, then it should be an open dining room experience for everyone involved, regardless of whether they just need help carrying their tray or to be assisted with a full meal. If someone doesn't have to be down to the dining room at 7:30 or 8 o'clock because they're at assist table, let them sleep in a little bit, longer and stuff. And I just think it would help them out a whole lot better. Or just have a 24-hour kitchen.
Okay.
You can still offer them a lot of variety of choices, their oatmeals and their grits and their biscuits and gravy and all that. But just instead of having a big open kitchen, just have a few items set back for the ones that do like to sleep in. I just think it'd be better.
Okay, very good. So when you think about whether it's the bathing experience or whether it's the dining experience, before you go have a conversation with your organization's leaders, one of the things you would want to think about is, what are some legitimate or reasonable options that I can propose? Having an open dining experience that's in fact probably nearly 2/3 of all post-acute and long-term care settings have gone to an open or cafeteria style or cafe style dining experience. to allow for that degree of flexibility. And as boomers become more and more prevalent, they're going to want as many options as they can possibly get. So it's a really good idea. Now then, once you've identified some options, the final thing that you need to do, and these are all steps that you do before you actually go sit down and have a conversation with your leader. The next thing that you want to do is you want to think about, okay, what's my desired outcome? So in the two examples that you gave us, Karren, one example would be that we wouldn't have to wake people up in the middle of the night for bathing. The other example was that we would be able to give people more choice when it came to when they had their meals. So the way you could think about that is both of those things impact quality of life, right? So maybe the way that you approach that conversation with your organization's leaders is, so I've noticed that there are a couple of issues that possibly negatively impact quality of life. I've noticed that we're getting residents up, or veterans or neighbors up, well in advance of the meal period, which means they don't get very much rest time. And I've also noticed that we still have on the bathing schedule folks who are getting up between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. And I sure don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't want to be woken up during that time. So so what we want to be able to do is say, hey, our desired outcome is to improve quality of life for the women and men that we care for. And so when you kind of put those things together, then you can go and you can have a conversation with your leaders, and they may not always be able to make the changes that we recommend, but at least they know that Karren G is an advocate for the people she cares for.
Right.
And they know you're paying attention. And because you're paying attention, they're going to be able to really trust that you're making really good choices for folks. So, Karren, are there other examples of things that you see in the post-acute and long-term care environment that we might want to improve upon?
One of the big issues that a lot of the CNAs have there at the St. James facility is when it comes to our activity department is absolutely wonderful. They are second to none. But one of the activities that the CNAs really concerned about is 4th of July, because a lot of our veterans have a hard time dealing with that. Especially when they are on our property. A lot of the veterans, they wake up, they're scared, Some of the CNAs do have the proper training on how to deal with that. Some, when you have new CNAs entering our building all the time, they may not be aware of, who struggles with this problem and who doesn't. And I don't feel that we need to medicate our veterans on a behavior if we can control them not having that behavior just to please the community. It's been an ongoing struggle with a couple of the senior CNAs that are there. It's a question that they raise every single year when it gets close to 4th of July.
Okay. Well, Karren, you make a number of really great points there. First and foremost, if you have a situation that you know or that you believe will likely create behaviors, if we can get rid of those behaviors, or if we can get rid of those things, then we're positively influencing the fact that those behaviors won't necessarily be there. So what are some things that you guys have tried historically with your veterans to address this concern?
Well, there's been quite a few of them that are very open to some of the CNAs and have discussed some of the problems that they have. we let the charge nurse know that, hey, this certain veteran is coming to us. He's worried that he's going to have a flashback, or, he's not going to be able to sleep. So we make sure to pass all this information on to evening shift, and evening shift passes on to night shift where nothing is, missed. And we really try to make them feel, safe. We try to go and talk to them and say, okay, we know that, you're worried, but you are in a safe environment, and we really try to stress that all the time. You are around people who care. We understand. That's one of the big things that we try to get across is we understand your frustration. And we understand that this is a celebration mainly for you, because they're celebrating their freedom, and the freedom is because of you, So that kind of helps with a lot of them. Others will hurry up and get their meal time, and we try to spend extra time with them, trying to get them to bed, trying to get, all of their cares and everything they need to make sure that we're not rushing around. We also make sure that the ones that are out in the community and out with the activity group that enjoys the fireworks and the loud noise and everything in the celebration, we also make sure that the ones that are having the problems are taken care of on the hall just as much as the ones out in the public. But it's kind of a touchy situation, because even though you're there for them and they know that they're there and they know that they're in a safe environment because you're taking care of them, you still don't know how they're going to react. Because when you're out there, if you're out there and you hear a loud boom, you're gonna jerk. Same as if I'm inside taking care of someone that's upset and a loud boom comes and I'm gonna jerk. I mean, you have to really maintain your composure working with some of these veterans. You can't let them know, oh, that startled me, because then they're going to pick up on that. It's hard to work with them.
It's interesting that you mention this, because I have some personal experience along these lines myself. There's a particular kind of firework that when it's going into the air, it sounds very much like a mortar. And so it elicits a particular type of response. Now, I love the 4th of July. I love fireworks. I love all that stuff. So for a few years, it really kind of stunk, because I really wanted to enjoy that experience, but I wasn't able to because of the other things. So one of the things that I've tried and that works for me is I have an iPod, and I can put my earbuds in and I can listen to music while I'm watching the fireworks.
That's good.
And so that's an option we might think about trying. Another option that might work is a lot of our veterans have probably been exposed to the hearing protection. So maybe we could put some hearing protection on them. Because I think the dilemma we would reach is, do you have some of the folks that you provide care for who really have they really enjoy that experience, that 4th of July celebration, and you have others that may be triggered emotionally by that. And you don't want to say, okay, we're not going to do it because of these guys, or these gals. So looking for ways that we can help them cope and adapt without necessarily getting medication involved is probably a really good idea.
It's not a large percentage, but it's a big enough percentage to for them to look at, to take in consideration.
Oh, absolutely.
But you can't, like you said, you can't stop the 4th of July for just a handful of veterans. But if they would just take in consideration, maybe if they're able to leave the facility, maybe do something else with them outside the facility. Of course, you're going to have fireworks everywhere, but just, or even talk to them ahead of time, or have it in their care plans. Hey,
Oh,
this,
absolutely. Great point.
this could be a issue for this veteran, or it could be an issue for this other veteran. What things have we tried, and really reach out to the CNAs, because one veteran may talk to one CNA, but may not express their concerns to another CNA.
Yeah, and that's one of the really great benefits of having nursing assistants involved in the care planning process, as we are starting to see happen more frequently. So, well, Karren, I really appreciate that you shared your time with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, when you serve as a grassroots advocate, you are going to see things that maybe don't quite fit with what you believe is correct. And because you care, you're going to want to say something. I encourage you to keep in mind something my granddaddy used to always say to me. He would say, "Boy, don't go off half-cocked." And what he was talking about is back in the old days, fellows would not necessarily always do the right things with their shotguns, and that could create accidents. So you want to make sure you're fully cocked, which means taking the time to gather all your information, making sure that you clearly understand what the cause of the issue is, bringing solutions to the table, and then really helping the folks you're communicating with see the vision of the desired outcome or where you want to get. I look forward to seeing you all again during our next episodes of Grassroots Advocacy. And until then, be well.